are you going to be average? Because, and by the way, it's totally fine. If you're average, honestly, just use AI, do some stuff here, work whenever you want to work. That's average business, and that's fine. But the average business, 50% of them go out of business within 3 years. And then the 50% that are left, those other 50% will go out of business within 2 years. So 75% of businesses are going to be out of business in the first 5 years. They're going to be gone. And then the rest of them barely make it by. But then there's that 1% to 2% that make all the money.
This is Secrets for Success.
Welcome to the Secrets for Success podcast. I'm your host, Greg Todd. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Guess what? This is my new content room. I'm sure you've heard, if you have been a listener of the podcast, you probably heard me talk about my property in Georgia and how that property is renting out with triple the amount of rentals than we had the prior year because of one big change that we made to it. And that was bringing it from 3 bedrooms down to renting it out as a 2-bedroom. And so we decided for our other rental property in Skyview that we were going to do the same thing. But this property is where I host probably 90% of my client events. And we decided, you know what? Why don't we take this 3-bedroom place, move it to a 2-bedroom, and turn this 3rd bedroom into a content room, a podcast room. And so now when I am here, I use this to do my podcast, and I use this to do all of my client interviews and all of their content. And we just finished doing that this past weekend with my clients, and it was phenomenal. What I'll do is I'll show you a video. If you guys follow me on like Instagram or Facebook, I'll actually show you a video of the room and how it looks, and it is fire. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to do my first podcast here. I leave out tomorrow to go to Cleveland to work with a practice or 2 locations. I got to do my podcast. So I said, you know what? I'm going to test it out in this room. So right before I started the podcast, I got a message from someone. And the message was from a former client. It's a former client. I wish I could read it to you, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Basically, the client said, hey, Greg, I hope all is well with you and your family, and all that stuff. Said, hey, listen, I'm not going to get into all of it now, but basically he said, I was one of your first clients in 2016. And I would like to re-enlist in your programs. So can you tell me how much it is? Because I'm ready to go. What? Now, first thing is this. I do remember who the person was. And I kid you not, right before I'm recording this podcast, I responded to them. And I said, yeah, yes, you can. But first of all, I remember you. I was like, you have, at least at the time, this is 9 years ago, so his kids are probably in college or something like that. But I was like, yeah, you have 2 young daughters, these beautiful little girls. I remember this was his second profession, his second career. And yeah, I remember everything about the guy. And he was number 7. He was the 7th client I ever had. Now, just for context, I've now had over 5,000, I think it's 5,200 clients, over 5,200. I don't know if it's 5,300, but I know for sure it's like 5,200 plus. And I remember that guy. And I'm not going to say his name on a podcast just because of respect for what he said to me, but I remember him. I remember he was in PT school. It was in Florida. I do remember that. And I remember a whole bunch of things about him. You guys, this past weekend when I was here with clients, they were asking me questions like, okay, how do I go from this number to that number? I was like, one person at a time. That's how you do it. I was like, yes, I am a huge believer in scaling. I'm a huge believer in leverage. I'm a huge believer in AI. I'm a huge believer in doing things faster. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to make money, you're still dealing with humans. And humans want to know that you truly care and you're truly invested in them. I think for many of you, it's really hard to do. Like it's hard to want to care for people if they're not paying you. But the reality is that you got to care for everybody. I mean, if you're going to win. And not only do you have to care for people, but the people that pay you, you better pay a lot of attention to them. They better know that you are in it to win it for them, not for yourself, but for them. And you got to make things right. Now, that was an awesome message, right? Okay. Earlier this morning, I got a message from a client who's an amazing client, someone that's a dear friend of mine. And there was a scheduling snafu, like basically scheduling snafu as in myself and my team. This person was blocked out a private day with us. But the problem is they blocked it out on a day that I'm traveling. And well, it wasn't they didn't block it out. We didn't block it out. And that's a no-no for me, right? And I had to take ownership of it. And, and my team, person that does this, had to take ownership of it as well. And it wasn't good. And it's not a good look on me. And the person was disappointed because this is not the level of what they are used to. So I'm just telling you guys this for this reason. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that, like, I'm telling you these things one person at a time. Well, yes. And that's how I have built every single business that I have built successfully. That's what I've done. And people have to feel that they have to feel like they are the only people on this earth that you are focused on when you are serving them. I use AI not to disconnect a relationship. I use AI to speed up the ability for me to get to those people. But then when you get to them, they got to feel it. And I want to tell you this. In these two instances that just happened in the last 3 hours, they don't happen if people don't feel that from you. The first person that was disappointed that they blocked out a private day and we now had to reschedule on them only had those expectations because of how we have treated this person. And what the person said in their message was, I feel like I'm not a priority and I'm disappointed in this, and I feel like I'm not a priority anymore. And you know what? How they felt was real. It's a valid feeling. Why? Because we always make people feel like they are a priority inside of this business. So messing up a scheduling thing is, even though it's an honest mistake, that doesn't make people feel good because they have that standard. Conversely, now you're like, oh man, that's too hard. Well, conversely, you can have someone that worked with you 9 years ago. And now 9 years later, they're like, okay, how do I pay you? I'm ready to roll because I already know how you roll. I know how you treated me when I paid you. I know that for the last 9 years, I haven't been paying you. And I know you've still been taking care of me. And probably something has happened in their job situation, their practice. I have no idea. But something has happened to where they already know I'm your guy because how I've taken care of you, whether you are my client or not my client. Guys, this stuff is hard. It's not easy and not every day it's perfect. But something I told my clients this past weekend, you have to decide in business, are you going to be average? Because, and by the way, it's totally fine. If you're average, honestly, just use AI, do some stuff here, work whenever you want to work. That's average business, and that's fine. But the average business, 50% of them go out of business within 3 years. And then the 50% that are left, those other 50% will go out of business within 2 years. So 75% of businesses are going to be out of business in the first 5 years. They're going to be gone. And then the rest of them barely make it by. But then there's that 1% to 2% that make all the money. They make the millions, the 8 figures, the 9 figures, the billions. There's something that they're doing that everybody else is doing. It's the highest standard that they're holding themselves to. It's feeling that every single customer feels like they are the only customer on earth. It's a huge thing. This is how it works. Now, are you willing to do it? I don't know. But what I told my clients this past week is that this is what it's going to take if you are going to make it to that top level. Now, the cool thing about the top level is that you cut your own check. You cut your own check. What you want to make, you can make. You're the best. And the best, people just have to pay for whatever the best want to get compensated for. That's it. That's how it works. So I don't know. I just felt like that was an important episode because in two ways, I felt it today. I felt having these high standards, and I felt how it blew up in my face for the first person. But then that's also the same reason why I got someone that was a client 9 years ago to not even question becoming another client again, because they already know that, like, when they're ready to do the thing, I am the guy, because of how they felt 9 years ago and during a time that I didn't have them as my paying customer, how I've taken care of them. So I just feel like it's an important episode. I think AI is important. I think AI is great. But if you don't understand that if you're going to build your business, it's got to be one client, one paying customer at a time. And you got to use AI to allow you to be even more intentional with your clients, not less. Not that everything is automate and forget about it. No. You've got to be intentional. So I hope that helps you. I hope that serves you. I hope this blesses you in some way. And much love as always. Till next time.